So this is a time when Gina Gardiner is going to be telling us all about her. She's one of our members. She's been a member for about 3 or 4 years now, and she never ceases to amaze me. Honestly, if you remember and you've not had a one-to-one with Gina yet, make sure you book her up because she's a busy lady, but go have that one-to-one. And if you're a guest here and you've never heard of Gina, go give her a Google. She's everywhere. She's written dozens of books. She's been on TV. She's been on radio. She's done a lot. And it's all around leadership. And she wants to talk to us today about whether we are the author of our own story. So I'm going to hand over to Gina now and let her tell us what that's all about.
Thanks very much, Jill. Let me just share my screen and then we'll get started. Okie dokie. Okay, really pleased to be here and I love being part of this group. I've had 2 conversations today with 2 members of the group, fabulous conversations and real opportunities for collaboration. It really is a very special group. So you are the author of your own story, whether or not you like it. For me, it's more about what story are you telling. And that's the story that you're telling internally, that dialogue with yourself, which can be empowering. Yeah, I can do this. Might not know how, but I'm going to do it. Or no, you're not good enough. You're not tall enough. You can't do that. What do you think you're doing trying to do this? And that story becomes your reality. So I want to ask you before I start, what role have you assigned yourself in the different areas of your life? Are you the victim? Are you the hero? Are you the person who goes and sorts everybody else out but forgets to look after you? Think about the stories that you tell yourself and think about the story that you present to the world, which may or may not be the story that you think. So I want to just make a distinction before I start between being a victim and being vulnerable, because I think that's really important. Many people get them mixed up and feel that they can't be vulnerable because people will see me as a victim. That's my story. But ultimately, being vulnerable and sharing with people that you are feeling unhappy or that you need some help is one thing. But when you really get engaged in the story of poor me, why is it happening to me? What can I do? I'm helpless. Then you're a victim. So what story do you share with other people in your personal life and in your professional life? What story do you tell yourself? And in many ways, that's the most vital one because that's where everything starts. It starts with you. So chapter 1, me. I became a head teacher. I became the deputy head teacher of a school in 1982, and I was appointed to be the catalyst for change. And I was very young. I was 27 at the time. And I was in a school where everybody had been there forever and they were not particularly wanting to change. Within a very short time, I went skiing in the February half term. I had a very serious ski accident and my life has never really been the same since. I became wheelchair bound and I've had periods of time where I've been completely wheelchair bound and other times when my mobility has been poor. But within a few months of the accident, in the summer holidays, the head teacher of the school suddenly died in his sleep. And I found myself to be the acting head to start with. And then I was appointed to be the head of the school. So I was, by this time, I was 29 and very green, didn't know what I was doing really. But the one thing I was absolutely determined about was that the children and the staff were going to have the most positive opportunity to learn, and that I wanted it to be a place where people felt happy and safe. Now, creating excellence, in my experience, is the easy bit. Maintaining and building on excellence is a lot more tricky. But I wanted children and staff and parents within the school community to feel that they belonged. And my school was in Romford. Many of you may know Romford, and it's a very interesting area, quite aggressive. And so we created an opportunity for the school to be a very safe haven. And I was determined that my physical limitations were not going to get in the way, that I was going to be the best version of me that I could be. It is, and it's true of everything in your life, all about choice. The challenges don't define us, but it's what we choose to do with them. And the interesting thing about the story that we create around challenges is that though that story can be, this is always happening to me and it's not fair and I can't do it, or, well, this is something I need to find a way through. How am I going to do it? Can I focus on ways to find the solution rather than focusing on the problem? And if you can't change the problem, what you can do is you can change the way in which you react to it. But if your story is, well, what can you do? I'm helpless. That's your reality. But I was determined that that wasn't going to be the same for me. You absolutely get what you focus on. If you focus on what you can't do, then effectively the reality is you can't do it. If you focus on what you can do, then it's a very different scenario. And so there were occasions, for example, when I came out of hospital, where if somebody hadn't left the wherewithal on the side for me to make a drink, I couldn't make a drink. But I could go into school and I could make a difference because the facilities, the faculties that I needed, I had. And if I needed somebody to do something physical, there were people there to do it. How often do you focus on what's going wrong rather than what's going right? What you can do rather than what you can't? Because there is a real different energy behind both of those things. And it's really important that you recognize that it's your choice. Ultimately, if you focus on what you can't do, the story you're creating for yourself is, poor me, I'm a victim. But if you focus on what you can do and you build on that, then it's a very different story you're telling yourself. Oh, I don't know what's going on there. Hold on. So while I was a serving head, I took on a load of external roles to bring a budget into school and also to keep the school at cutting edge. And because I'm very honest, I've got a very low boredom threshold. But in doing all of those things, those roles, not all at the same time, I have to say, what I did is built a breadth of leadership experience. Now, for those of you that, perhaps your only experience of people with disabilities watching the Paralympics or seeing somebody struggle as they get into Debenhams when it was open, what I want to say to you is that whatever your challenge, whether it's physical, whether you have a mental challenge, whether your business is your challenge or your family, there will be a gift in there. There is the opportunity to learn. And for me, helping people recognize the gift and utilize that is part of my story. And it's something that I do with individuals, couples, with businesses, and with my mission, which is to positively impact on 1 million people in the next 5 years through the development of enlightened leadership. Every time I move you, I have to remember what I'm doing. Okay. So in 2004, I was given an ultimatum, and that ultimatum was that if I carried on doing what I was doing, I would be housebound. And I couldn't cope with daytime television. And so I made the difficult choice to leave school, did a research project across industries to see were they facing the same problems. They were, and these were my first 2 books. I then started to work with SMEs and recognized that there were a whole range of things that needed to be done. And I'm not expecting to go through these, but just here, because I hope you're going to get the slides. And I hope that those are going to support you in terms of recognizing that within the story that those SMEs were creating about their success, there were ways to help them recognize that not only internally did they need to create a different story, but also externally. I was talking to Benjamin this morning, and we had a great conversation about the how we present things. And we were talking about the problem with the lorry drivers at the moment, and the difference between an organisation saying we need lorry drivers, come and drive for us, and an organisation saying come and be with us. We want to nurture you and develop you. Come and be part of something bigger, part of the nerve, the circulatory system of the country. Come and make a difference. And I wonder which story is going to have much more resonance and will attract more people. Of course, then you've got to back it up. But ultimately, how you're presenting yourself in everything you do will make a difference. About 2009, the last recession hit, and I was charged by my coach, and I practiced what I preach. I've always got a coach on the go, to write my story. And I wrote Chariots on Fire, which is a really different type of book, because for the first time, I was prepared to be vulnerable and to share my story. So as we get to chapter 4, it's all about having a growing sense of purpose and recognizing that I could help people on a one-on-one or in an organization, but I wanted to do it in a much bigger way. I'm absolutely passionate about helping people step into their genuine power to become the very best version of themselves, and ultimately recognize that that's the platform for the development to become the next best self. And I don't mean next best in the sense of lesser, but an even better self next week, next month, and so on. And so another book, Thriving Not Surviving, and being an author is very much a part of what I do, because I can share my story in a way that I can help many, and through writing the story I evolve. And so it's a win-win. There's something there to help other people, and it's a passive form of income, and it's a way of helping many, and them having access to the principles and strategies and structures, but in a very affordable way. But at the same time, every time I write a book, whether that's a big book like this, or whether it's one of the later books, which tend to be journal type and workbooks, I move on to the underpinning principles, the connecting themes, and the 5 secret pathways are the principles and structures that I live by and that I work with clients, and it works. So in 2017-18, I set up GenuineEU. I had no internet presence. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I hadn't got a clue. And I started to build it. And these are just some of the things that I have produced since then as part of my movement to create a different way of being that gets to other people on a much bigger scale. And I've been featured in lots of places because I put myself out there. Lots of people I work with, the story they give themselves is, I've got to play small because if I don't, people will think I've got an ego, or they'll think I'm boastful. I would say to you, get over it. If you're in this group now, it's because you have come and you want to make a positive difference. And with all of the things that are going on in the world, we absolutely need you to join together with us to help make a positive difference. And if that sounds a bit posy, well, I don't make any apology for that, because we each leave a living legacy in every word we speak and every action we take, how we do it, when we do it, whether we do it at all. And collectively, we can make a much greater difference. So for me, chapter 5, I reckon the best is yet to come. Leadership for Life is my TV and radio show, and many of the people who are in Collaboration Global have been my guests. And it's just one of the ways that I am telling my story and other people's story in order to help those who are listening or watching recognize that they are the author of their own life story. So why not make it a great part? So I've got a stable of books. And as I've said, my mission, it's now 4 years because the years are gone, to impact, because every time somebody steps into their power, not only are they impacted, but the people within their family, within their friendship group, within their organization. Everything you do or not has an impact. It's part of your story, so start to own it and take radical responsibility for that. For me, it's all about leadership based on integrity, compassion, and the courage to do what's right. You're not a lemming, and yet if you look out there, many, many people are behaving like lemmings. I was very amused by the fact that Jill's arrows point the other way. We need people who are going to be the leader of leaders and who are prepared to step outside the norm, who are prepared to do things differently, because if we carry on doing things in the same way, we're not going to get out of the mess that we are in now. And so for me, this is about leading in the new era of consciousness. And profitability is about the holistic version of profitability. It's about growing and nurturing your people. It's about taking care of the environment and leaving a positive imprint, a positive legacy. So there's going to be a masterclass, and I'll go through these in much more detail, but I just wanted to give you a taste of the sort of things that I think make a huge difference to the quality and the reach of your story. For me, it starts with taking absolutely radical responsibility, because in doing that, you step into your genuine power. I talk about your core values being above the line, and if you're behaving in line with your core values, then you are above the line, and that you are expanding and enabling others as well as yourself. Below the line, you're not walking your talk, you're not being authentic or genuine. And many leaders at the moment are very good at saying things, but they don't follow through. And they think that, one rule for me and a different rule for everybody else. And that can't continue. So, what stories are you telling yourself? The outcome of your story is based on taking radical responsibility for yourself, your thoughts, beliefs, what you focus on, your readiness to step out of your comfort zone, or as Lizzie says, to step out of your familiarity zone. Because when you step out of your comfort zone, instead of finding it scary, think about it being unfamiliar. Your awareness, if you're not aware, you can't do anything. Your understanding, why do you behave in that way? And do you have to continue to behave or think or do in that way? And your actions, because without actions, nothing's going to change. And your way of being. I'm working on being much more of a human being than a human doing. But I have to say, I've had decades of practice of being a human doing. 95% of our thoughts are habitual. They don't cross the conscious mind. So ultimately, start to be the master of your thoughts. If you are thinking habitually, your thoughts are easily triggered. It puts you into reactive mode. And then the story doesn't become one that you tell, or in the sense that you don't have the power to tell your story. It just happens. And often it happens in a very negative way, because you often trigger other people. Do your beliefs empower you or limit you? Those of you that know my story will know that I did the fire walk, even though I could walk very few steps. But the guy behind me was a double amputee. He put himself on his hands and he walked those hot coals on his hands. It changed my life, because in that action, he made me realize I was self-limiting. So how do you self-limit? What do you focus on? Do you focus on the good things in your life, or do you focus on the things that are going wrong? Can versus can't, lack versus abundance, what's going wrong? Being grateful is a great way to change the story. And I'm realizing that I've only got a very short amount of time. So what I would say to you is, if you're going to create a story where you are the hero or the heroine, where you make a qualitative, positive difference, be prepared to step out of your comfort zone. Be prepared to be open and curious to find a better way. Ask questions of yourself and others and learn to be comfortable with uncertainty. It's one of the certainties in life, is that life is going to be uncertain. Just like taxes and death, we know that change and uncertainty are part of living. Give yourself time to be still and be quiet and really focus in on your inner wisdom and access your intuition. Follow your gut instinct and see where it leads you. If you really want to be in a situation where every day fills you with joy and that your work is something that you're absolutely passionate about, and become a human being and not a human doing. And Jill, I'm going to leave it there because I know that time is very short. But if you're interested in finding out more and having some help in terms of how you can plan and couch your own story, then please come and join me at the mastermind. Thanks, Jill.